Hello there. So I wanted to show you how to operate your newly owned OWK4 by Korbanth. So it is a fully removable chassis. Before we get into that, I'm just going to show you how to function the buttons properly. Okay, so over here you have your activation and then your auxiliary. So your activation will be to turn it on. Your auxiliary will be things like blaster blocks. Okay. Turn it back off. Cycle through fonts will be your aux, not your activation.
Ben? Master Kenobi?
I will give you so much more.
Alright, now let's get into the nitty gritty. So, to access the kill switch, you have to take the pommel off. Alright, so say you've played with it for about 20 minutes and you're now done for the day. Okay. The kill switch is right there. Now your lightsaber is off. Okay, now say that you killed the battery entirely and you actually want to take the chassis out to access the battery. What you're going to do is you're going to take these resistors out. That's what these are called. All right, slip off the clamp. Okay, then you're going to get an Allen key that is 5/32, which is for a 440 screw. Okay, and you can either just undo one until you feel the pressure relieve, or you can undo both screws. I like to do one because then I can remember which one's tightened and which one is not. Okay, you take it fully out just like that. All right, now to get access to the SD card as well as the USB port, you do have to take the battery out. And it's just a spring side, so you just press. I'm not going to take it out because I want to leave it in currently, but that's what you would do. As you can see, the switches are there, so it is operational with it actually out of the hilt, right?
What could you give me? Everything.
The reason I show that off is because if you wanted to test a config or font to make sure that they're working, you could do that without having to do anything with the hilt at all. Okay. Now keep in mind it's a Proffieboard, so when you're done, you have to hit the kill switch. You cannot leave the kill switch on. A good way to double check that to make sure, no power, nothing's working, right? Now if you forget, if you hit this and it turns on,
Give me.
okay.
Everything.
Turn that back off. You have forgotten to turn that switch off. Now you also may have noticed that I'm twisting the chassis, and what that is it's twist off and there's also twist on, so if you don't want to use the switches. Now, how to get it set up to work, all right? What you have to do is insert the chassis, right? You need to make sure the buttons are lined up. You actually want to press it in where you feel it's going to spring back. Not too much, but just enough. You're going to have it spring back, right? You don't want to press on the speaker. You kind of want to grab like this. And then you go back to the side that you loosened, which I loosened this side. And you're going to tighten it back up. And it's got to be tightened pretty good, because if you don't, what will happen is this is so tight on the bottom, it'll start to move it and misalign the buttons. And see, I misaligned the buttons myself, so I have to, this is actually good to show this. Misaligned it, so I got to realign it, push it back in again where it springs just enough. And see, I'm not pressing on the diaphragm of the speaker, it's just the edge. I'm going to tighten it just enough that when I go like this, I can't get it to move. Okay? Now what you want to do is line the clamp back up. And keep in mind, during all of this, it's off. You do not want it on while you're doing all of this, okay? Keep that in mind. Line that up properly. What I like to do is I clamp it down so it doesn't move. I'll get one in. Actually, unclamp it. Loose is probably better, because these can be a little tricky. You want to make sure they actually click, and if they're not clicking, then you want to back them back off and see if you can have the chassis slide down a little bit less so it's not as pressed in. See, I can hear it clicking. That's what you want. That means that that's enough. Does not need to go more than that. Once you get one, the second one's easy. That's clicking good. That I don't like how that's clicking. All right, that sounds like that's taking. Clamp it back down. Now getting this, you have to press pretty hard to get it to thread back in. Once it does, it'll go. Just like that. Right? Do a check, make sure it's working. So I'll take this back off, hit the kill switch. Oh, see how that chassis moved? That's not good. That's how I know I didn't tighten it down enough. See, this is good that this is all happening so I can show you if you need to troubleshoot. Just like that. See how it's moving? It means one of the nails isn't tight enough, or one of the screws. So I got to tighten that back down. Make sure those are lined up. I'm actually going to tighten this one a little bit now, so make sure. All right, make sure it's off. And we're going to line up the clamp again. There we go. That's lined up. That one's a little too tight. Perfect. I like that. Double check it before I put the pommel on.
What could you give me? Everything.
Yep, I like that. Yep, I like that as well. Not moving the pommel. Like I said, you won't have to do that every time. It's just when the battery runs out to get the chassis fully out. But
What could you give me? Everything.
all right, so that's how you function it to get it operating and working. Now to get a blade in, it will come with this one. And there's a little retention screw right here. And all you'll do with your blade is you'll take out the blade plug and you'll insert your blade right in there and then tighten down that screw. Same thing with the springs, right? You want it to push in and then you'll get a good connection. And that's it. That's everything for the OWK4.